Hey everybody, Philip Czarnecki here. In this video I'll be demoing the Carl Martin HeadRoom Mini, and later I will be comparing it to the original version over here. The HeadRoom Mini is a digitally emulated version of its real Spring Reverb analog predecessor, which I absolutely love, use it here in the studio all the time. The HeadRoom Mini is a more compact version. As its predecessor, it comes with two identical channels with reverb and tone knobs, but adds a decay knob, which is obviously only possible in a digital reverb. Next to your bypass foot switch, by the way, the pedal has a buffered bypass. You get your select foot switch, which lets you select between the two channels. You can run the pedal in stereo. You need to go stereo in with a TRS cable, then you can go out with a stereo TRS cable, and you get also a remote connection here to remotely switch between the two identical channels. Up next, I'm gonna show you this bad boy here in isolation. We'll go for some cleaner sounds first. Later, when I'll be comparing it to the original version, I'm gonna go for some drivey sounds as well. Let's check out the HeadRoom Mini and later on comparison. Okay, here's my Les Paul Standard 50s into the Bloomfield Drive plug-in. Dry, and here comes the Carl Martin HeadRoom. So I have a longer reverb setup here. I wanted it to be slightly dark, so I'm like on about, 10 or 11 o'clock on the tone knob. The decay is as much as you can get. So I'm gonna show you the same setting, but with a brighter tone here. So you start hearing more reflections, more brightness there on the reverb trail. And let's crank the tone knob then. Beautiful in my opinion. You can hear those reflections. It sounds cathedral-ish. So I hear like a spring reverb, you know, mixed into a cathedral. It's beautiful, and the same thing with the tone knob all the way counterclockwise, so we should get the same thing but much darker on the trails. Although the trails are dark, you don't lose the front end of the note. It feels beautiful still. Beautiful stuff. So this is side A, and I have a room reverb on side B. Beautiful room sound in my opinion. Same thing here. You could make it darker and maybe give the room a bit more size by going up on the decay. I had it completely counterclockwise. Maybe, you know, go higher on the reverb knob, which is basically your mix knob, and you get this. Super cool stuff. And then 12 o'clock maybe here on the decay knob, reverb knob and tone knob. Everything on 12 o'clock. Okay, and then if I wanted this reverb to be my always on spring reverb, I would probably go to about 3 o'clock. Tone knob, something like that, and then reverb knob to taste. Maybe if this was my always on, I would maybe go here. Or maybe a little bit more on the decay as well, and slightly brighter. So this would be super cool, always on spring reverb sound in my opinion. The HeadRoom Mini does this beautifully. Let's compare it to the original version of the HeadRoom and see what we get there. Okay, for the comparison part, I set up everything on the floor here. I wanted to go for some dirtier sounds here, so I'll be using the Rattler by Jam Pedals. Later on, I'm also gonna go for some super cool fuzz sounds with the 6.0 by Thorpy effects. And then what I did already, I matched two different settings with the HeadRoom Mini and the HeadRoom. I tried to get as close as possible, so we'll see if I succeeded there. This is my ES335 into my Revv D20. Here comes the Rattler. Dry, and then comes the HeadRoom Mini on preset number B. Super cool, very present sound, present in the sense of lots of reverb there. I did something like this in my intro tune with the ES335. And then this is the original HeadRoom. As you can hear, real springs in there. So there's maybe a bit more level here, but what I right away notice is I can hear the spring tank. I can hear this drip, which is very typical for real springs that you can hear in the OG HeadRoom there. Here comes the HeadRoom Mini. I don't know, maybe this could need a bit more tone and a bit less decay, maybe something like this. OG. Again, I can hear the tank, I can hear the drip, I can hear the springs. The HeadRoom Mini does this beautifully. However, as I said in the first part, it goes beyond spring reverb, I find. So you get a big room, like a cathedral meets spring reverb there. It does it beautifully. You know, it really depends on what I would go for. Actually, I wanted to tell you guys a little story. So the other day I had a gig. I took a real spring reverb, not the HeadRoom, the Ecofix EFP2, and the stage, you know, it was like a wooden stage, and it started to move, and then, you know, you could hear this all the time. So in that situation, I would have loved to have the HeadRoom Mini there, you know, and go for a digital emulation. Because, you know, if you have a real spring tank and it starts moving, you have those noises. However, you know, it's really difficult to get there digitally. But Carl Martin did a great job here. But let's go for a shorter, well, not shorter. With the HeadRoom, the OG version, you cannot change the decay. The springs are, you know, they have their length. The tank is as long as it is, and you cannot change it. But a bit darker tone and a bit less mix. And then, as I promised you guys, let's go for some fuzzy sounds. Same thing with the HeadRoom Mini on preset A. So again, I hear more treble right now. You know, I could go for a darker tone, maybe a bit less. Let's see. Same thing, original HeadRoom. So I let you guys be the judge. I said what I think already. I think the HeadRoom Mini does Spring Reverb beautifully. I think it crosses over into a cathedral. I think you can play with the decay, which obviously is not possible with the HeadRoom, the original version there. And beautiful stuff here by Carl Martin. I enjoy both. You know, I would go for each one depending on the situation. As I said there, if you are bothered, you know, with the noise on a real stage which is moving, a real Spring Reverb can be a pain in the A. And, you know, the HeadRoom Mini would be a great solution there. Killer stuff.